In this video, I will be discussing dynamic approval. Dynamic approval adds the ability to select groups required to complete an approval process. Perhaps during the approval process, other groups need to be added or removed from it in order to get something approved. Dynamic approval allows you to do just that. An example of this would be during a dynamic approval, it's discovered that another group should approve a document. Normally, this would require modifying the workflow, making it much more complex, and requiring other documents that are in this workflow to go through the changes. Dynamic approval feature avoids this problem. Secondly, another example is that this significantly simplifies the workflow development if requiring more than 3 approvers. SOLIDWORKS' standard process of doing 2 out of 3 approvers works fine if it is only 2 out of 3. But as we'll demonstrate, it can be very complicated if it gets to any more than 2 out of 3 groups. Okay. Basically, the parts of an approval process. Here's the default workflow that comes with SOLIDWORKS, and you can see highlighted in yellow is the simple one-person approval. A document sits in waiting for approval, and then is passed on through the transition to the approved state. So any person that has that ability to do that transition will be able to approve a document. If we want to make this more sophisticated, we can use out of the box SOLIDWORKS' 2 out of 3 approval process. Here you can see that we have person A, person B, and person C being being the people that need to approve a document. In this particular case, we've decided that only 2 out of the 3 people need to approve this. In order to accomplish this, we set up these automatic transitions and send it back to waiting for approval, or if it's finally completed, it goes on to the final state of approved. In these 2 automatic transitions, we set up a series of conditions where we define whether someone's approved it or not. When a person has approved it, it changes these conditions to validate whether it should be sent back to the waiting for approval or completed. This 2 out of 3 works pretty well. It only allows for 9 different conditions and can, be pretty well set up pretty quickly. However, if you extend this to, say, 4 people that need approval, and you want to make this so that either 2 or 3 people need this approval, these 9 conditions turn into 16 conditions. Starting to make it a little bit more complicated than one might want to do. Finally, if you go to 5 different people, and I think there's some big math if you want to get all geeked out about it, but I believe it's over 100 different conditions now that need to be accomplished in order to ensure that either 2 or 3 or 4 out of 5 people approve this. Dynamic approval simplifies this significantly. What we've done basically is we've set up the same waiting for approval state. Someone submits it for approval. It sits in the state for approval complete, and then the API, basically the add-in that we've written, will decide whether that approval needs to be sent back to the waiting for approval or whether it's complete based on what you've selected or who you've selected for that group. So the best way for me to demonstrate this is to do an example. Here we have in our vault an ECR. This is basically an engineering change request. I'm going to go ahead and submit this, or create this engineering change request, and then submit it for approval based upon who I select. So the first step I'm going to do, new ECR, see the document information that fills out here, creates a new number. Go ahead and create this document. And you can see in my data card now for this particular document, I have this tab here for approvals. In this approvals box, you can see up to 12 different departments that I can select from. In this particular case, I'm going to select the project and product managers, the engineer, some engineering or person in the engineering group, and some person in manufacturing all need to approve this engineering change request. I'm going to go ahead and save this, check it in, and if we go back to the approvals, now you can see in the tab, you'll see the status of those approvals. So far, none of them have approved it, and the name of the person hasn't been filled in or the date. Now, to keep this a little more simplified for demonstration purposes, I've designated myself, the admin, as a user in each one of these groups. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this for the approval. And it's going to sit in this waiting for approval state. Now, each person in that group will now have the ability to change the state and approve it. Again, because I am part of all those approvers, or a member of each one of those groups, when I select the approve, the API is going, or the add-in is going to be a little bit confused as to who am I approving this as, and prompt me with the list of the groups that I'm part of. I can then select each group that I'm choosing to approve it as. As we know, a lot of companies, you don't just wear one hat. You might be part of one of these groups. It just depends on what this document is referring to, that you're approving it as a particular member of another group. So here I'm going to approve it as the product manager. Okay, let's do a quick refresh here, and we'll look at the approvals. And you'll see that the project manager now has approved it, and this is the date that it's been approved at. Now, if I'm going to come in and say I'm the engineer, I can look at this particular document and say, I actually need the quality assurance people to look at this before I approve it. So I'm going to check it out, go to the approvals, hit the quality assurance, save, check it back in. And now I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And once again, you can see, because I'm part of all of that, now the quality assurance people are added to that list. So I'm going to approve it as the engineer. Again, you can see that the approver name is filled out, the date is filled out, and that there are still 2 more to go. It's still waiting for the approval. So let's just go ahead and finish those last 2 up. I'm going to approve it now as the manufacturing. And finally, since there's only 1 left, now whoever the last person is, that's going to go directly to the approved state. And you can see now it's in the state called waiting to initiate an ECO, and that all the values have been approved. Okay, well that's about all I have for the dynamic approval process. Again, just as a quick review, you can see that to control the dynamic approvals is simply a checkbox in a file card for whatever document you're going to be controlling. And then you set up through the settings tab the particular states that this will be active through. Okay, I guess on to the next topic, which is automatic reject notification.